welcome back to Christian Men Unscripted. I'm your host, Alan Underwood, along with John Harney here by my side.
Hey.
We are coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada, Las Vegas Strip. No,
live. Today we're going live. Okay, we're kind of still not.
We're not live.
I just left from another podcast before I came here. I was on a crime one, dude. Vegas Crime Files, Heidiology, Heidi Harris, dude. It was awesome.
Oh, that's nice. When's it come out? I'm
not even sure, to be honest with you, but her show is awesome, so check it out, man.
I do. Check it out.
Yeah, Vegas Crime Files. It's oh my gosh, conceptually it's awesome because she knows so many people. She's been around forever, right, in radio, and she's still on the radio and all that. And so that was really fun, dude. We talked about like October 1 and all this other stuff. But here we are, ready to talk Christian Men Unscripted stuff with no real topic. But right before we went on, you were like, I know what I want to talk about.
Right.
Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
So we in my group, we do a community group, couples group. We start with the Old Testament. We're just going to start from the Old Testament because my church does not go through the Old Testament a whole lot. They do. It's not like they don't.
Yeah.
But after you get through Genesis, and I don't know, what do we got? Genesis and then
Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers.
Just Genesis and Exodus.
Yeah.
The rest is like, it's boring.
Oh my gosh, Leviticus is a tough one to get through. Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just hard to read. It's a hard read. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But there's other good stuff. But once those two are done, I'm like, Numbers, Leviticus. I'm like, I'll read the whole thing, and I'm like, what did I just read?
Yeah, I get it.
Sorry, but that's just how it is.
Yeah.
For a layman like myself.
Mm-hmm.
But my microphone's way too loud for myself.
Yeah. So this is what happens when you don't have a sound engineer actually working while you're doing the show.
Yeah, but there we go. So when we talk about Genesis, it's like, it's easy, right? He created Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
That's where we go. And then, they ate the fruit because the serpent.
Genesis chapter 3, the fall of mankind, sin, right? They made the decision to disobey God.
God. And so then sin entered the world and we were, apart from God. So, but the problem I have, and this is not a problem I have, it's just, I don't have a problem with it. I have no problem with it, to be honest with you. But when I talk to people and they're like, well, how do you explain Adam and Eve? And they created all human beings and, Cain and Abel were their kids and what, Cain killed Abel.
Yeah. First murder.
Yep. But they had wives.
Yeah.
So, the question is, where did their wives come from? Were they their sisters? Were there other people? And so all man came from these two people. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, interesting. So my thought process when we were talking was like, no matter what you believe, you can believe Adam and Eve weren't, created, but two people did start everything.
Yeah.
No matter what you believe. If you're an atheist, if you're not,
if
you believe in Jesus, if you believe in Big Bang, two people created everything. So how it worked out for me, I don't know. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't say that Adam and Eve were the only people he created, just the first. Is that true or not? That's just my thinking. I'm like, it never says that they were the only ones. They were the first, and then the sin entered the world, and then it's like, okay, where did everybody else come from? Did we start from ancestral?
Yeah. Look,
that far?
It's funny, dude. Obviously we always joke when we talk about it kind of candidly because we just want to be real. Yeah, no, the Bible is actually, it's pretty clear in the original language and stuff that God created Adam and Eve and then told them to basically be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
And so if you want a very quick summary, yep, it was their sisters, dude. I'm just telling you. Mm-hmm. Because first, there's several things, of course, when you look back on that. One, I'm going to address exactly what you said. You're exactly right. People who don't even believe that God created, spoke the universe, spoke everything, whether it's the Big Bang and that it all came from God creating, even secular atheistic scientists, now I don't know if they still do, I should have looked this up knowing 5 minutes before we started talking that you wanted to talk about this, but well, that even secular atheists...
This whole day has been on the fly.
Yeah, it's fine. But even secular atheists used to basically say Adam and Eve, right? Like we're the first two human beings. Now they think they evolved from monkeys. I totally disagree with macroevolution, in other words, that a dog can turn into a cat or monkeys became people. Microevolution, which I think would be more appropriate to say adaptation. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's true. You take two dogs, like wolves or whatever, and you keep on breeding, and now we have domesticated dogs. That's just proof, right? That's But they're still dogs.
As humans were bigger, stronger, faster than we were.
And that's just right. And that's just. But yet we're not turning into fish. We're not turning into. I'm not growing feathers. But the point is this: going back to your first question on this one, I think quite simply, Adam and Eve were created. They had sex, dude. They started having babies. That's what God put in them. And yes, that Cain, Abel, all of those first generations of folks intermarried with their siblings. Now, think of this. First of all, it was basically almost a pure human race, right?
Correct.
Almost pure
No, yeah.
DNA, right? Pure, newly created. Sin entered the world, and so all of a sudden they did have lust and all these other things within their mind because now
And there's nobody else.
that's correct. Also, we always think traditional family because it sounds so disgusting, right? Like, oh my God, my sister. First of all, dude, these people lived in a perfect environment hundreds and hundreds of years. So it could have been, I don't know the ages, and someone probably will be out there that really studies this out, and maybe it's right there and I'm missing it in Genesis, just not thinking of it. But whatever age they were, we picture a traditional home.
Yeah.
My siblings were all in the house. We're playing Monopoly. Next thing you know, I'm marrying my sister, dude. Like I joke, my family's from West Virginia, for full disclosure. We're all in West Virginia in the hills marrying our cousins and our sisters. Yeah. But, dude, the reality is they were a more pure human race. By the way, you want me to go down a whole rabbit hole, I believe they were probably darker black than white because we all know human race came from Africa. It was somewhere in Africa. More than likely, pigmentation just changed. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
I mean, the same thing with environments.
Noahic stuff, right? The Noahic flood, the different families. By the time that happens, you have different races even on the Noah's Ark thing. Okay.
Right.
In summary, sisters.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe. But they weren't raised in the same house. They might have been 20 years older. 20 years later, one of them's 80 years old. The sister's 20. They never even knew each other. They've been living 1,000 years apart, or 1,000 miles apart.
And they were living
whatever.
a lot longer, so 80 doesn't look like the 80 of today. Although when I'm 80, I plan on looking pretty good.
Yeah, probably pretty shredded. So anyway, I think in summary, dude, without trying to go into a whole teaching thing, that it's not as big of a deal as we make it.
It's just a question.
Yeah, and there were no commandments. There was no law. There was no writings against that, right? You know what I mean? No Levitical law and all these other things.
And the bottom line is no matter what you believe, that's how it started.
Oh, exactly.
That's exactly.
Atheists say the same thing. Like, eventually some chimpanzee-looking, monkey-looking thing finally had a baby that was hairless and a human.
Yeah.
And then they must have had another one, and then those two people, Adam and Eve, the first two human beings, they had to procreate.
Okay.
But that didn't happen. I
know that didn't happen. I fully believe what happened. But also the other my thought process on the apes thing is that, okay, where'd they come from? Okay, so if you fully believe we were from apes, then they started somewhere, and they had to be a male and a female. So no matter what you believe, it started from two.
Correct.
Things.
Right.
So
and then there's always the in-between. Where's the in-betweens, right? And in the plant world alone, when you talk about like evolution, like God created all these things and the macro species, if you will, and then the micro species are sort of like what we call kind of the, I guess, microevolution when you have different dogs, different cats, different monkeys, whatever.
Yeah.
So...
And then the DNA argument as well.
Oh my gosh, all of it. Of course, in the DNA structure, there's arguments about that where it's like, well, technically we're only like 1 or 2 chromosomes or whatever different than a mouse. Here's what's funny about that, though. If you look at it, it's because there are certain structures that work. And so it always points to intelligent design. In other words, like the horse and buggy was a great design, but then it evolved into a car. And then now, guess what? When you see electric cars and Teslas, we consider that sort of a higher evolution of vehicles. Look at the structure, though. They're still rolling around on 4 wheels. In other words, it's a design that works.
Right.
It's a design that works.
Correct.
And so when you look at different animals, different people, all the way down to our DNA, it's a design that is effective.
Correct.
Does it make sense?
That makes 100% sense. 100% sense.
Yeah. All right, dude. What else? I like that kind of stuff. That's as
these
general as we can go. Okay, that's
like,
pretty general, but I think it's in summary. There you go.
And the other thing is the Earth, how long it's been around, and dinosaurs.
Ooh, those are okay.
And I've never heard a great answer for how those dinosaurs exist. I've heard people say that dinosaurs were around when Jesus was around, or before that, or Moses, and Noah and all that.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I don't believe that.
Okay, listen.
I don't wrap my head around that. And I'm not saying I know. I don't know. It's just something I don't know. I don't have an answer for, and I never will.
Okay.
You can give me an answer, but I don't know if I'll believe it.
Okay, well, dude, it's so funny. This, again, is such a loaded and amazing topic. But here's what's funny about this. First, let me give you a full, what do you call it?
Breakdown?
A disclosure? Is that a disclaimer?
Disclaimer.
Let me give a disclaimer. I'm going to express my views, but they're not necessarily those of everyone or every Christian, right? And the most important fact is to share the gospel, the good news of Jesus, and to say, hey, the rest of this is up for debate. Some of it.
Yeah.
However, let me tell you my backstory. See, you're talking about one of my favorite topics.
Okay.
For a variety of reasons. Years ago, dude, 30-something years ago, I worked at Cirque du Soleil. And I worked with this Christian guy, and he was like what we call a young earth believer. Like, he believed in Jesus. He believed every word of the Bible. By the way, I'm just going to tell you dogmatically, I am now of his camp. Back then I was not. Back then I was like, but evolution and Christianity can kind of work. I was one of those.
That's kind of where I'm at on that.
Okay. And I believe in the millions of years thing and this and that. He's like, no, if you understand X, Y, and Z, and he kind of explained whatever. But I was like, man, you're kind of a quacky nut job. Okay. But then we started going down and by the way, I still love him. And like I said, I now believe exactly everything he shared. And this could be a very long podcast just to go down this rabbit hole. However, here's what, one night, let me just share this very quickly. I was reading the Bible, and he explained to me, look in the Bible, look at all these, the Leviathan, the behemoth, the description in Job of these creatures that Job eyewitnessed that, dude, it's definitely not a hippopotamus. And I agree, oh my gosh, when you read about these animals that are described, they're definitely dinosaurs. Right. I'm just telling you, when you understand the original language, it's describing like what we used to call a brontosaurus. I don't know what they're called now, but the big giant ones that are in the water and they come out and eat the trees and they're in the Jurassic Park movie.
I think they're still called brontosaurus.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think we changed the name of them.
I feel like they are a new name because I feel like my kids schooled me on that.
I would never.
Yeah,
know.
Like in the 70s or the 80s, like they older guys like us, they make fun of us. They're like, they're not brontosaurus, it's the this or that, whatever.
I don't know. Okay.
So he's explained all this. I'm like, I still don't get it. No kidding. This is one of my, what do you want to call it? Like an answered prayer faith stories of my life. And I have a few, like seeing my wife and loving her and praying to God when I was 15 that she would become my wife. There are big impactful things. I wanted to be with my two different grandfathers when they took their last breath, and I was. God has gifted me a few times in my life with something that has been so impactful that it's changed the trajectory of my faith. And dinosaurs is one of them.
Okay.
I'm
glad I asked the question.
Yeah, I know.
I don't understand it, and I never have, and I kind of just let it slide for years.
Well, and I don't want this again. You don't want people to become divisive over this, because when you share this, people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. You're a nut job." That's because society has conditioned people to follow Darwinianism, which is absolute garbage. And Darwin himself was a horrible human being. Okay. So I'm just being honest. The dude basically, in summary, hated religion, hated Christians, and wanted to be able to sleep around and all kind of other issues. And he probably had hurt and habits and hang-ups and abuse in his own life. And he was a brilliant scientist, but he did everything he could to disprove God, to include making up evolution.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I am at Cirque du Soleil, and I get in this conversation again. Great Christian mentor, dear friend of mine to this day. He's a lot older. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, dinosaurs and humans and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? I've been taught my whole life. Like, there were millions of years ago, the Jurassic and the Cretaceous periods and all this.
Me too.
So I got in my car.
I watched Jurassic Park, all of them.
I love them. Okay, I know I love them. So I get in my car. I'm working the show. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I sat before I started up my car, and I was praying, and I prayed to God, and I said, God, I truly believe in Jesus. I was 18 years old or whatever. I was a young guy. I know I believe in Jesus. And I had just read the Bible cover to cover and all this other stuff, right? I was just trying to navigate my faith in all this. But I was a believer. I said, but God, I really do struggle with the dinosaur. I'm asking you, God, to open my eyes, to help me to better understand. If I even should. Now, at the time I was a kid, I didn't say if I should. Now I believe you seek to know who Jesus is before you seek to know about dinosaurs.
Correct.
But, okay.
And that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, but back then I was like, God, I got to know. I started my car. My radio, as soon as it came on, it was on 90.5 SOS Christian Radio in Las Vegas. The second I turned it on, and on this episode, Dr. D. James Kennedy, if anyone remembers him, his guest is so-and-so, a creation scientist, and they're going to talk about dinosaurs.
Wow. Okay.
Dude, I literally sat in my car. I just prayed that prayer. God, won't you show me, help me to have a better understanding about this whole dinosaur in the Bible and creation and the millions of years versus whatever.
Yep.
And I started my car. There was not a commercial. There wasn't another song. It was like I had to look around and be like, whoa. You know what I mean?
Right.
And dude, for the next, whatever that show was, 30 minutes, I'm driving home. I sat in front of my house and I finished the whole show, and I was absolutely blown away.
Okay.
Blown away, dude. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to summarize for us just real quick about the dinosaur thing. I guess I'm going to put it this way. There are many folks who have gone down this rabbit hole, okay? Some of these people are like, oh, you're crazy if you believe dinosaurs existed during human beings' existence and all this.
Yeah.
However, there are some really, really strong arguments just in pop culture even today. Because what these people say is, where do you think Native Americans, before paleontology, because we believe that all we've ever discovered are dinosaur bones, okay? Right. Then how do you think Native Americans, and this is proof, we know this to be true, were able to draw exactly what pterodactyls look like, exactly what Tyrannosaurus rex looks like in petroglyphs and stuff. They have drawings in America of dinosaurs, and they didn't put bones together. They didn't know what their skin looked like and all this, but yet they perfectly drew pterodactyls and stuff. But hold on, it gets more. In England, there are castles that have, again, brontosaurus. And you can look all this up. There's a book out there called Dragons or Dinosaurs. Every single culture, ancient culture that we know of, historical culture, whether it's Native Americans, Aborigines, in Europe, the ancient Europeans, the Viking culture, especially the Chinese culture, the Asian culture, every culture on planet Earth has a dragon. Now, dragons, there's a word we adapted from a Chinese word for dragon. Do you know that every culture has drawings, artifacts, stories of the knight slaying the dragon? Do you know in Roman history, there were actual, this is just Roman history, not Bible, Roman history, there were Roman legions and centurions, not as big as legions, almost like Roman special forces. Off the top of my head, you asked me, I wasn't prepared for this, that their job was to hunt and kill dragons. Why do we think every Disney movie, they're adapted from 100-year-old fables and story tales? Right. Where do you think they got dinosaurs from? Dragon slayers is the most common theme in old ancient, like those type of stories, is there's always the dragon that has to be slain. And they are perfectly drawing what we know today. Paleontology is relatively new, 100 years old or whatever. What we now put together and say are dinosaurs, human beings for hundreds and thousands of years have been drawing and talking about having to kill these dragons. There's Roman history that says there were Roman soldiers that were special forces units that had to go ahead on the roads, and there was a report of a dragon, and that was their job, was to go and kill a dragon. Chinese culture is the only culture, how they have the Chinese New Year? Yep. Every animal on the Chinese New Year we consider to be real except for the dragon. Traditional Chinese culture, like the old grandpas and grandparents and stuff before Chinese communism stuff, they don't think that that's a fake animal. They're like, no, we had like dragons. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's just an animal that was part of our culture. They just happen to be extinct. Right. And so I share all that because I kind of went down that rabbit hole, and it was explained so clearly to me that just because they're not in the... First of all, I believe they're in the Bible. They're in Job. Okay. Description of dinosaurs in Job. When you read it, I don't know the verse off the top of my head, but when he describes these animals, there is no other animal. People try to rationalize. There's no other animal but what we know as dinosaurs. However, there aren't cats in the Bible either. In other words, in the Bible, there's no relevance to your salvation to discuss these animals. Correct. He doesn't have to talk about a porcupine or whatever Aardvark. Because it's aardvark, right, or a platypus or whatever. There's no need to talk about those things because they have nothing to do with the ultimate creation story, the Messiah, the fall of mankind, the why does the Messiah come, the anointed one, and the salvation and reconciliation between human beings and God because of Christ on the cross. So the animals don't matter in that respect. Right. But every single culture on planet Earth, every ancient culture describes dinosaurs way before paleontology or the first human being ever put two bones together. So there's more evidence, believe it or not, there's more historical and archaeological evidence in antiquity of human beings interacting with dinosaurs than there isn't. Yet, we've all bought the narrative since Darwin decided that evolution is where we came from instead of creation because he hated God. Okay. And it's been perpetuated on human beings ever since. And so, again, you can agree, disagree. Maybe you think I'm an idiot.
No.
But I'm just, and again, it's not even that relevant. If you prove differently to me, I wouldn't care. Right. I know who Christ is.
I don't care.
But I actually believe it's more logical and objective to say, oh, man, that is true. Human beings killed dinosaurs like they were going out of style. Every story is about killing the dragon.
And how did they go extinct? Because it says they went extinct through a meteor. Supposedly.
You mean there was a singular cataclysmic event that affected all of the earth and killed most human beings, animals, and everything else? I'm pretty sure the Bible calls that the Noahic flood. Okay. And so during the Noahic flood, there's this dude Noah who God said, you know what, this guy, you're good, Noah, hey, build this thing and spend all this time.
What was that thing?
The ark.
I'm just kidding.
And so... Again, all of the evidence worldwide proves that there was a cataclysmic event, a flood, layers of sediment that buried and killed all of these animals. Right. I believe, again, dude, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I do believe that Noah and his wife and Shem and Ham and all his kids, first of all, they had interracial marriages and things like that got onto that ship. There is proof of that. There's a description of that in the Bible, that dark black, light black, whatever. That they probably had some dinosaurs on the... dinosaurs a new
probably
word.
Smaller ones.
Yeah, maybe they had little baby ones, maybe they had bigger ones, I don't know. But they probably had a few breeding pairs, and when they landed probably in the Ararat Mountains in Turkey, which there's a whole thing about the Noah's Ark thing on that, there's still a town, an ancient town named like 8 people or something. It's in Turkey in the mountains. To this day, it's been called that for thousands of years because it was probably where that ship landed, that ark landed. And after that, those animals probably did continue to breed and probably expanded. But every single time humans saw them, they were probably dangerous. They were reptiles. Reptiles are kind of nuts. Crocodiles survived, but they probably killed them, which is why you always see the knight has to slay the dragon. They're probably like every other animal.
I mean, you look at like
extinct.
rhinos and stuff. They have that look of a dinosaur.
No, I mean, I'm just telling you, dude, like it's not like it's a big stretch. It's just...
Don't get mad at me. I was just asking a question.
I'm getting frustrated. No, I'm just kidding. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do.
All right, so dude, I don't know. Does that?
And then, that's perfect. And then, you look at the earth, the crust of the earth. And I know you already kind of went over it a little bit, but they're like, oh, this is millions of years, millions of years, millions of years. But then isn't there something underneath the crust that's newer?
Dude, listen, it is so funny. It has been proven so many times.
Water erodes things.
And there was a plane crash. Please look this stuff up, guys. It's interesting. But you see, you go down, believe me, I get it. There are quacks on both sides of this argument. Okay, there really are. Okay, I understand that. I realize that. You might even think I'm a quack for saying this stuff. But there are those folks who say, hey, there was a plane that crashed in the 40s. This is a true story, and it crashed somewhere in the Arctic Circle or Antarctic Circle somewhere. Mm-hmm. And they're like, this ice, it's like everything is 10,000, 100 millions of years. They found this plane. They're like, oh, crap, this plane is supposed to be from millions of years ago, but we know for a fact it crashed in the 1940s or whatever. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
Stuff like that's been proven over and over and over,
but
people still stick to it.
Yeah.
And so I guess I don't know. I know they're super smart scientists, much smarter than I ever could possibly dream to be. I understand that. And I'm not going to try to argue with those folks.
Right.
But there's so much of that where it's like, well, every one of your theories gets blown out the window by when they find this one plane that you said is under millions of years of ice, or whatever.
Yeah. No, I get it. Those are just questions that, we kind of brought up and we were talking about and thinking about. And I'm like, and there's like, I'm way newer to Christianity and reading my Bible and understanding things than you. And when I get asked these questions, I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, and believe me, I'm not trying to dogmatically teach you. I'm just sharing what the rabbit hole I went down.
We're not, we're not trying to teach anybody anything. That's for you to look into and read and understand. And I get it. I mean, I'm the same way. I also, and in my opinion on time, on like millions of years, thousands of years, how long ago was, our calendar is based on the death of Jesus, correct?
Yeah, 2000.
So, I mean, I don't know what time was like when Noah and Moses, a day was a day or a year was a year, or did they think of a year as 5 years? I don't know how that worked.
Right.
So we could say this was 2000. How many years ago was Moses, would you say?
6 or 8,000
6 or 8,000. It could have been 16,000. I don't know.
Yeah.
Based on time. I mean, time flies for me. Like, I think the day should be.
Well, here's another argument on that. Okay, people start talking carbon dating, but then the people who are against carbon dating, they say, well, I can go and in Hawaii, and that we know for a fact the Earth, that a new volcanic ground was just formed yesterday, and you test it and it says it's millions of years old, but then the others say, well, that's because it's millions of years old in the core of the Earth and all this other. Well, what's our baseline? Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. None of us alive right now, today, not the greatest scientist of all time, was here 1,000 years ago. We can use, by the way, history from about 1,000 years ago. We can use history about 2,000 years ago. In fact, people say, well, the Chinese culture is the oldest sophisticated culture in human history. They're 10,000 years old. They always claim that, 10,000 years old. Do you know they actually only have history that goes back around like 5,800 years, something like that?
Right.
In other words, there's no human society that goes past, I think, 5, 6, 7,000. Don't crucify me on this, guys. I'm not 100% sure on the years. But
if I put it out, you'll get it.
I know. But there's nothing that goes back like to a full 10,000. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so, but we know for a fact there was a cataclysmic event described in the Bible. Mm-hmm. On that note, almost every culture in society in human history in antiquity has a Noah's Ark story, by the way, which really actually only fortifies the story found in the Bible. But Polynesian cultures that you know what I mean, they talk about this family that floated on the boat. Interesting, because remember that a lot of that was before the written word of God.
Right.
Okay, and then you have cultures. Let me think of another one that's I find fascinating and interesting. So everyone agrees there was a cataclysmic event. The Bible says it was a flood. Many cultures agree there was some kind of a family that survived. Look this stuff up. It's fascinating on a boat, not just in the Bible, but it's probably all talking about the Noahic flood, Noah's Ark. We talk about global warming. There is a whole science dedicated to the fact that if it rains and covers the whole earth in rain, it would superheat the earth, and when rain falls, it actually creates heat, believe it or not, frictional heat and all these other heat. I don't know what the science behind this is. However, the Bible doesn't just say it rained. The Bible says water came from up out of the ground. People didn't realize that springs are underground like we know now. So the flood wasn't just rain. It was the coming out of the ground. What happens when water recedes rapidly? It's cooling. We have swamp coolers. That's the whole point, is to blow air over water. That's all it is. But it creates a cooling effect. Biblically, if you understand, there was a cataclysmic event where the entire world was covered in water. All those animals were destroyed. The breeding pairs were still there of all the major categories of animals, according to the Bible. But then these people land on a mountain somewhere in the ark. When the waters recede, well, the recession of the water would cause what we call the Ice Age. Science would prove that if the earth were covered in water, especially if it came from the ground and the rain, as it receded, there would be a supercooling effect. What do we know in global history? We know that scientists tells us, anyways, that there was something that caused an event in this world that caused the Ice Age. To this day, global warming, I agree that global warming is a real thing. You guys can really bash me on this one. But I believe global warming is because the earth has been warming after the waters receded. When Noah and his whole family landed and the waters receded, then there was a global freezing, an ice age. And then you have the north and the south polar caps are still cold from that event. But ever since then, those caps have been slowly melting away because the earth has been slowly warming because it's been that long since it was frozen thousands of years ago. Does that make sense, Dave?
It does. And
Boy, we've been all kind of weird topics. I like that kind of stuff, though. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, there's so many more questions, but those are the two that I wanted to get to. So, yeah, and like I said, when you're new to Christianity, you learn the New Testament, the Jesus, the gospel, you learn Genesis, the creation of man, Adam and Eve, and the fall of man and the separation from God, and then the redemption of Jesus Christ. You learn all that.
Yeah.
That's great. And then then you talk to people and they're like, whoa, what about, how did they populate the incest and this and that? I'm like, no matter how you look at it, that was bound to happen because two people, man and woman, with the anatomy that they had to have kids and that's how it happened. No matter how you look at it, even if you believe in a God or you don't believe in God. And then the dinosaurs things, they lived. We know that for a fact. And there's however you want to look at it, but also Jesus lived. Also, all these men in the Bible and women in the Bible lived, and these are true facts. And there's things that I read in the Bible that I'm like, you got to wrap your head around things. Like I was reading Acts, and was it Peter? Not Peter. Maybe it was Peter who was on the road, and the Ethiopian man was reading Isaiah, and he's like, "Hey, do you know what you're reading?" And he's like, "No, can you help me?" And he's like, "Oh, you're reading Isaiah. That's the coming of Jesus, the Messiah." So he goes, "Baptize me," and he's baptized him, and then he disappeared.
Yeah.
And you're reading that, I'm like, he just disappeared?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can get that. And I was talking to a friend of mine in our men's group, and he was like, I've seen people healed. And I'm in my head, I'm like, man, no, you haven't. But who am I to say, right?
Right.
So I haven't. But, I don't, is my mind open to that is the question. Like, there probably is lots of things, but my mind is not open to it.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not going to see that if you're not open to it, if you don't, believe 100%. And we were talking about prayer at church last night with the students. And it's like, what's your prayer life like? Why do you not pray for certain things or for health, for, cancer? You have somebody dying of cancer. Yeah, it's not going to work all the time, but there's miracles that happen. And I go, I think the number one factor is doubt.
Yeah.
Do you doubt creation? Do you doubt dinosaurs? Do you doubt?
Yeah. Dude, the healing thing, that's James chapter 5 when he says pray, but also believe. The prayer of faith, kind of like when those guys tore the hole in the roof to lower their handicap, buddy. And Jesus like, the faith has healed this guy. Yeah. He's actually referenced the faith of the friends, by the way, who prayed over and brought him, and they were like, dude, we know he can do it. Yeah. And so you're right. That goes into a whole charismatic argument, doesn't it? Because I'm not a very charismatic person either, right? I kind of make fun of those people like, oh, God, heal the blind right now. And because I feel there could be some damage in that, because there's always a balance. Right. But our God is a God of the impossible, and if he can breathe and create stars as we believe him to do and create human beings, obviously he can use what he needs to do, and he can heal whenever he wants to heal. Yep. So isn't that funny? I agree with you, though. People say that, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, same. Okay, wackadoo. Yeah. Although right here, this episode, people were like hearing what I said about dinosaurs. They're like, okay, wackadoo.
Correct.
But it's funny because you don't have to agree. No. I'm just telling you, I went down that rabbit hole for years, but it was answered prayer in that moment. Yeah. And then years, by the way, that was 30 years ago. Dude, I've read so many books on that. Yeah. Matter of fact, I recommend one. It's called Dragons or Dinosaurs. I can't remember the author. I don't even have it anymore. I gave it away. It's a short book. Don't remember the author. Don't even know if I would agree with all of his theology. Right. But it's one of those, he provides the evidences. He says, dude, look this up. This is in this museum. This is where. Loved it, dude. Loved it. And then the creation, here's another resource. The Creation Science Museum and the Ark in Kentucky. They built a full-size Ark. I happened to go during a time when they were doing a display of ancient Rome and dinosaurs.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I don't think I happened to, by the way. I don't think there was an accident. God knows that's been a journey of mine, is to discuss dinosaurs for a long time without even understanding very much. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah.
It does make sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, every Disney movie you've ever seen, where do you think that concept came from, having to kill a dragon? Back hundreds of years ago, dude, before paleontology? How do they know what they look like, bro? I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, by the way,
you
one more
stop
thing.
yelling at me today. Yeah.
I'm
No,
yelling
just
at
kidding.
one more thing. Marco Polo. Look this up. Marco Polo. Yeah, Marco Polo. Famous explorer. Supposedly brought pasta back to Italy from China. That's part of his history. Okay. Do you know that modern historians, they will say everything Marco Polo wrote about when he first went to China and Japan and all the Orient and all this other stuff, it's all true except for, which this doesn't make any sense, he also wrote about these creatures that they had. Now, dinosaurs is a term that people made up like 100 years ago. Back then, they called them whatever they called them. I don't know. Maybe it was dragons. I don't know. I don't know. But he wrote about how the Chinese kept these creatures that he had never seen before, and he even describes them as being like
Magwas?
scaly. He
dinosaurs.
describes dinosaurs.
I'm thinking magua.
He describes dinosaurs that
You know
the
what a
emperor.
magua is?
Yeah, dude. Gremlins. He described dinosaurs as we know them today in his ancient writings, or it's old writings, I guess not ancient necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know what defines ancient. When he was in China, and saying that the emperor, they brought these things out and harnessed them and stuff and pulled things with them, but they had to, they were kind of wild and scary. And his description is of dinosaurs. Look this stuff up, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, so then historians, more evolutionists,
Yeah.
anti-God type of people, they're like, well, everything else he wrote was true, but this is when he kind of went off on a fictional tangent for the fun of it. Okay, that doesn't make sense to me.
Why would he
but
do that? Yeah.
whatever you got to do to reconcile, but I know you're thinking I'm doing the same thing. I'm reconciling as well, right? And so, see what I'm saying? So I get it.
Yeah.
But there you go.
But the bottom line for me as somebody who believes in God and Jesus and everything that goes into the Bible, it's like we were created. There's a creation. It's not by chance. We didn't come from goo. We didn't come from monkeys. We were created perfectly and I discuss that, we were fit together.
Yeah.
Man, woman, create more creators to multiply.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then the whole New Testament, the gospel of Jesus Christ, makes even more sense.
Yep. And that's what matters, dude, is that you're loved, you're seen, the creator of the universe loves you. He entered humanity in the person of Jesus Christ to do the work of Jesus Christ, Christ being the Messiah, the anointed one, to go to the cross to bear the penalty for your sins so that you might be reconciled with a perfect God by faith because of his work on the cross. So it's like, that's what matters. But the rest of it's kind of fun to talk about, dude.
I agree. And you know what? And we're going to find out sooner, hopefully later, but
life
maybe
is a
sooner.
vapor. Life's a vapor, even if you live
sooner or later.
You got another year in you, dude.
At least. Who knows, man? We keep having these. I'm just kidding.
We better wrap this up.
All right, that's it.
Yeah, man. Be blessed.
Be blessed.
Eric